What's up? This is Jose Metal Ambassador Mangan on Sirius XM Liquid Metal, and this is Devil Driver with their new banger, This Relationship Broken. Turn this one up.
This is Mike from Devil Driver, and you're listening to That Metal Interview Podcast.
That Metal Interview.
A new episode of That Metal Interview is what you're tuned into. Your friend James here, host for That Metal Interview podcast, the fastest rising podcast, rock metal podcast in the world. Maybe. Not sure, but it's the best podcast for me. So anyways, we have one of the guitar players for Devil Driver by the name of Mike Spreitzer. We appreciate his presence on the program. And right now we're going to check out a song from their Devil Driver's newest release, Dealing with Demons 2, a song by the title of This Relationship Broken. Let's check it out. We'll be right back. Napalm Records presents groove metal icons Devil Driver. Right there, you heard This Relationship Broken. A very aggressive, awesome single right there, and video, so you guys can check out on YouTube and on your favorite way of streaming music in the year 2023. And a big shout out to all the metalheads and rockers listening to this podcast. I am truly appreciative of your company and your presence. Thank you for downloading, sharing. And if you guys want me to interview a certain artist, be it rock or hard rock or metal, death metal, black metal also, email us at thatmetalinterview@gmail.com, right? That, T-H-A-T, thatmetalinterview@gmail.com, or you can just inbox us through our socials, right? You guys can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and several other social media apps. And so be it. Let's check out our interview with Mike of Devil Driver. Check it out. What part of the planet are you at?
I am just outside of Los Angeles, California.
Oh, very cool. How's the weather over there?
Right now it's what we call May gray. And then we have June gloom. After May, it's basically most days are overcast and cloudy.
Cool, nice. I'm in Texas. I'm in the
nice
semi-scorching heat.
That's coming for us. Probably more like July or August, though. But I don't think it's anything compared to what you guys have in Texas.
Right. So, anyways, we're here to speak of your new album, Dealing with Demons, Volume 2. Napalm Records, available now. You can stream it now for people listening. Who wrote the arrangements, the riff? Who's the riff master, lyrics, and all that? Can you talk to us about that?
It was me, Neil Tiemann, and our drummer at the time, Austin Diamond. We were all heavily involved in the writing process together. I would say, obviously, Neil and I wrote a bulk of the material, but Austin was there every step of the way, and there's a few songs on the album that were prominently written by Austin, I believe. It's been a long time since we've done this record. You know, we finished everything in early 2019 with everything except for mixing and mastering. But the last time I was in the studio working on this record, or both of these records, Volume 1 and 2, was in November of 2018. So it's been a while.
Yeah, wow, 5 years.
Yep.
So that explains Volume 1 and Volume 2, right? So why not a double album or something like that?
Well, the pandemic definitely came into play. We knew we were going to release it in two different versions. We weren't going to have a record with 19 or 20 songs on it. We released 19. There's actually one more song that we haven't released yet. I'm not sure why. I keep on forgetting to ask Dez and the label why, but we had never come to a conclusion of how we were going to release Volume 1 and 2. We were either going to release them at the same time, stagger the releases, possibly 6 months apart, maybe a year apart. We hadn't decided. But then when the pandemic came around, we ultimately decided on releasing the first half, being Volume 1, in 2020. Right around the time when the pandemic started, and then we would wait to release Volume 2 when everything settled down and we can actually get back out on the road again to promote it. So that's just kind of how things went. I was glad I'm very glad that we did two albums, because with all the, Dez had some pretty serious health problems going on after he had COVID, and it took him a long time to recover. And he, even when touring started up again for a lot of people, we still couldn't go out. So I'm glad that, we recording another album during the pandemic wasn't really an option for us. But we already had this other album sitting on the shelf that we could release whenever we wanted. And
that's ready.
So it was almost like we prepared for the pandemic when we were doing this record, even though we had no idea it was coming.
Right. Wow. You guys wrote about 19, 20 songs, give or take. Very cool.
Well, we wrote a lot more than that.
Oh, wow.
Not obviously everything didn't make the record. We always write more than what we need for records, because some songs are going to end up being stronger than others, and when Dez is not around while we're doing the instrumental parts of the record, and we basically hand it off to him at some point, and he might not be feeling a couple songs, so it's always good to have extra material lying around just in case
Yeah, in case
people end up liking one song more than the other. You know, there's some songs in there that the band may like, but the producer, being Steve Evans, might see it in a different light, and one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden one song that was better than the other, you know, things end up switching. So you never know what you're going to get into.
Yeah.
But by the time we actually get into the studio with our producer, we have a good idea of what we're going to do.
So was there any song that Des did not like and it stayed on the records?
No, I think so. I know there were a couple songs that we introduced him to initially that he wasn't really feeling, but that's mostly in the beginning. I feel like once I kind of give him the second bulk of material, he has time to kind of absorb it and kind of figure out where the album is going to be going at that point.
So which is your favorite song on this volume 2?
I would say either Summoning or Nothing Lasts Forever. Possibly Bloodbath. You know, those are the three that stand out the most. It's kind of hard for me to pick one.
Yeah, they're all badass to me. They also they're all metal. So
yes, they are.
So how many songs are you guys doing live?
Right now, on the last tour, the only new song we did was Keep Away From Me off Volume 1. And, you know, we probably should have been playing Through the Depths because that was the first song we released from Volume 2. But I think we're going to add Through the Depths on the next tour along with at least one other song from Volume 2. But we haven't made any final plans for that just yet.
The set list for the future, yep. I get you.
Yeah.
So
next tour is Noctel. I think we're doing another tour with CRADLE in October. And,
okay, nice. Wow. I noticed
well,
you guys do a couple of tours with those guys. Is there you guys best friends, or is just what is it there? What's the relationship? They're the same agency, or?
CRADLE of Filth is managed by Dez.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So,
I didn't know that.
He's been managing. Yeah, he's been managing them for a few years now, and obviously him and Dani have built up a pretty strong relationship.
Wow, excuse my ignorance. Wow.
We had never toured with CRADLE before this last run we did this year. We had done a few festivals with them throughout Europe from time to time. But,
that's what I saw, yeah.
Never really got to know them. And absolutely wonderful people. You know, it's sometimes you vibe with certain bands out on tour, sometimes you don't. I do find that DEVILDRIVER vibes with probably 90% of the bands that we go out with.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's either like a very strong relationship or kind of a neutral relationship. You know, when you're out on tour, especially when you're younger, you know, everybody's drinking and everyone's partying together, and you're around each other, you know, more or less every day.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, a lot of us don't drink the way we used to, but that has a way of really putting a friendship into overdrive because you guys end up having fun together, you're hanging out a lot, and you know, I've made a lot of good friends over the years touring with DEVILDRIVER.
So you mentioned 90% of the bands you guys get along, and so there's a 10% there that you guys didn't gel.
I wouldn't say that we've never not gotten along with a band.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that some bands like a good example is just like 36 Crazy Fists. We did one show with them out in Germany somewhere. It was like an off day during festival season, and we, you know, a lot of us went out together to get a drink afterwards, and it was just like, you know, an instant, like, yeah, we're all gonna enjoy each other's company.
Okay.
And, you know, sometimes it takes a whole tour, sometimes it takes a week, 2 weeks, but, you know, but I can never say that I've gone out with a band where I didn't like the band as a whole. You know, there's obviously been a couple cases where there's been certain members that have gotten a little out of control, but usually their time in that band was cut short by the way they conduct themselves on tour. But
Yeah,
I've never been in a fight or an argument with another band member from another tour. It's never happened.
Yeah, you sound like a cool guy, and you don't seem like a Mike Tyson, kind of.
Yeah, I try to be.
Right?
I don't. There's no reason to have enemies in this world.
Exactly, right? So, how is it talking to Dani Filth? Is he a cool guy, or is he? Some people think he's some evil guy on the throne in a castle somewhere,
I would say quite the opposite. He's a very witty person. He always has a quick response to things that are said, and usually it's on the comical side of things. He has a very, very good sense of humor, and he's very polite. He's very professional. There were some days where we had to share dressing room with Cradle, and we really got along, and we all kind of agreed at the end of the tour that it was for everybody, for our crew, for our tour manager, because our tour manager Eddie was working both bands, and the tour just could not have been smoother. And I think it has a lot to do that we're all a little older, a little wiser. There's a lot of sober people on the tour now, and those of us that do drink, we don't really drink to get clobbered like we used to in our 20s.
Yeah.
And even our 30s. But he was totally cool. I can't say that I spent a whole lot of time with him, but the tour was pretty short. When we all kind of started really getting used to being around each other and it became more friendly, it was like the tour was over. And
okay.
I think we're all pretty bummed out. I think almost everybody on the tour wished it was a couple weeks longer.
Yeah.
We got another one coming up, and with the way Dez's relationship is with Dani, them working together, I imagine there's going to be quite a few Cradle of Filth DEVILDRIVER tours in other markets around the world as time goes on.
Yeah, the demand is there for sure. So, take us back to the past, if you will. At what age did you pick up a guitar? Were you a small boy, a teenager?
First time I picked up a guitar and started taking lessons, I think I was 6 years old. Oingo Boingo and Def Leppard were the first bands. Like, Oingo Boingo kind of got me into music. Def Leppard made me want to play guitar.
Yeah.
And I started taking lessons from like this. It was all acoustic guitar. I wasn't into playing acoustic. I didn't want an acoustic guitar, but my parents, the deal with them was, it's like, we'll get you this. I remember it cost $100.
Okay.
They bought me an acoustic, and they're like, if you stick with this for a year, we'll think about getting you an electric guitar. So, and when you're 6 years old, a year just seems like an eternity.
Right.
But I started taking lessons with this lady. I cannot remember her name, but she was kind of like, she reminded me of Joni Mitchell.
Okay.
And she always had recitals for her students, and she wanted me to sing and play guitar at the same time. And I wasn't interested in singing. I didn't want to sing. I just wanted to play guitar. And I remember my mom going up to her and asking her if, she's like, well, he doesn't want to sing. Why don't you just let him play guitar and not sing? Oh, and she's like, oh, no. All my students have to sing. It was like a requirement. And I thought it was bullshit. My mom thought it was bullshit, and so I quit.
Yep.
And then I think I was 10 years old, shortly before my 11th birthday. I started getting the urge to pick up the guitar again. And my mom, called a bunch of... My parents were very supportive of this, kind of surprisingly.
That helps.
I was growing up, because... but anyway, yeah, they were great. But she started calling around and looking for a teacher for me that would teach me heavy metal, and we finally found this guy named Brian Doherty. Big, like, curly, fiery red hair, and was a total metalhead. And he really lit a fire under my ass and got me going. He taught me a lot of Black Sabbath. I remember he taught me, I think, some Obituary.
Oh, wow.
And Megadeth, and just a bunch of different stuff. And I can't remember why I stopped taking lessons from him, but then eventually, I think, in late middle school, early high school, I started taking lessons from a guy named TJ Parker. He was more of like a blues rock kind of guy. You know, he's like Stevie Ray Vaughan, and to tell you the truth, he's probably just as good as Stevie Ray Vaughan. And
Wow.
yeah, he's absolutely amazing, and I still see him all the time because we live pretty close to one another. And he was the best teacher I ever had. Like, he started teaching me theory. He was a fun teacher. He didn't have a curriculum for all his students. He treated every student the way that they wanted to be treated and what they wanted to learn and what direction they should go in, on top of being like, dude, you should really learn music theory because it's going to help your playing immensely. So I did, and that was pretty much it. And then when I moved to Santa Barbara when I was 18 is when another fire was lit under my ass. I started playing with a progressive blackened death metal band, and I didn't write any of the music in this band, but the guy that did, who was also the singer, was much better than me.
Okay.
And kind of like, this guy was just kind of an anomaly, but he taught me a lot, and that being in that band really kind of paved the way for me to be a good enough guitar player to join DEVILDRIVER.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So let's see, and then the prog band lasted about, I think, 2 years, and then there was a little point of limbo in there where I wasn't playing any shows and I was working on a new band, and then DEVILDRIVER asked me to join, and that was it.
So how did they find you? Did you know some of the guys, or was it
yeah.
Did you have social media back then? Yeah.
No, it was, yeah, when I met the guys in the band, there was no such thing as social media at that point. Like, we had AOL.
This is 2000s, that's right, yeah.
About it, and
MySpace.
And chat rooms, we're talking, in 99, I moved to Santa Barbara. The first guy I met was John Miller, and he kind of invited me into the group of friends, and, he was living with Jeff Kendrick at the time, and John Birkeland lived probably like 4 houses away on the same street. And we were in a band called Grolby. Don't ask what that means because it doesn't mean anything. It's just a name one of the guys made up. And I was sick of being in the other band, so I remember we were at the Rainbow Room one day, about to go see a band called the Genitortures, and I asked them if I could join their band as the second guitar player, and they were like, yeah, sure. That band only ended up lasting for about another 8 months, and our singer quit, and Birkeland was already working on DEVILDRIVER with Dez. Originally he was going to be a guitar player, but eventually he moved to drums, and so that band broke up. They started working on DEVILDRIVER, and then like 2 years after that, I ended up joining the band.
Cool story there. So, do you keep in touch with former members?
Yeah, I keep in touch with all of them.
Which is the best lineup, DEVILDRIVER lineup, in your opinion?
I think they were all great in their own way. Working. It was all great. It's just different. I was probably, I do admit, I've developed a tighter relationship with Neil and in Austin than I did with the other guys. I think it was because I was always the new guy in the band early on.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to tread lightly. It's like joining a new club, and I kind of worked my way up to the point where every record, they would allow me to write more and more. But there came a point where that first lineup started to show some cracks. Miller had to leave to deal with some things, and then Birkeland and Jeff ended up quitting on the same day, and I kind of saw it coming, but I wasn't terribly happy about it because I didn't know how I was going to vibe with new members. And then I met Neil and Austin, and we vibed immediately. Like, we had a very great time writing together, and once again, I had to watch them leave, which was, that was difficult for me.
It must be. I mean, you guys gel and jam together, and then it just dissolves. I get you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say that I like being around my band. Being around my band and being on tour and having that camaraderie with one another, with our crew, and the other bands. Like, you know, once you get out of school, a lot of people don't get that anymore. You know, you still keep in contact with your friends, but it's not like it was when in high school. And I like being able to have that to some extent. You know, being an adult. I don't want to do it all the time. I like having a balance between home life and tour life. But it's nice to mix things up. It keeps life more interesting, you know, because you're not doing the same thing over and over every day. You get to kind of switch gears and go hang out with your friends, you know, and I kind of enjoy that. I would say a tiny bit more than even playing the shows these days.
Yep, relationship, Yep.
But now we've got, I'm very, very happy to have Miller back in the band. You know, he was the one that kind of brought me into the circle. I always got along with him very well. He's a fantastic writer, and I can't wait to start. We've already started working on another record, and we're just at the very, you know, in the baby steps of starting, but it's exciting for me. And Davier and Alex were awesome on the last tour, and, you know, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I mean, we hired, you know, Alex, you know, a year and a half ago, but, you know, we were basically in hibernation until we could go out on tour again. So I was a little nervous about how the new lineup was going to be, but I think about 3 days into rehearsal, I knew it was going to be awesome. So I can't pick a favorite lineup.
Yeah.
But,
they're all badass to me. They all sound badass. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Great talents, you know, to each his own. So that was one of my questions. How did Miller end up back in the band after, 10 years or so?
It was actually, I think it was 13.
Okay.
So, he, you know, me and Berkland and John have been on a WhatsApp conversation group for a long time. So we would, you know, throw jokes out to one another, reminisce about the old times, and, you know, that's how we kept in touch. So I was in touch. Miller and I hadn't spoken a whole lot since he left the band, but he was on the other side of the country. He lives in Maine now. I'm still out in California. And, you know, he started trying to patch things up with Dez because they haven't really spoken in a long time. And, you know, when he left the band, it was a little messy. And a lot of time had passed. You know, wounds had healed. And he started texting with Dez. And, you know, one thing led to another. And they, you know, basically became friends again. And one day, Miller called me up and asked me how he would feel about, or how I would feel about him rejoining DEVILDRIVER. And, you know, he was such an important person in the band. You know, I was like, well, you know, we already have a bass player being Ashes, and I really like him. But the flip side of the coin is like, what is the best thing for DEVILDRIVER? And, you know, Miller was such a powerful force in the band. It's like, this could be really good for the band, having an original member come back.
Yeah.
So I told him if Dez was cool with it, you know, with him coming back, I would give him my blessing, you know, when Dez asked me, because, you know, Dez obviously wanted to run this by me as well. And one thing led to another, and he's back. And, you know, once again, I didn't know what to expect with him out on tour again. But throughout the years, you know, his bunk, we've always slept in, you know, bunks right next door to one another. So we would always hang out, and, you know, having him there every night, us just talking about old times and catching up. And, you know, we picked up right where we left off. And, you know, he's always just had this amazing stage presence. And looking over to my right every day and seeing him there, it just felt right. And
yeah.
I'm very happy he's back.
Very cool.
He's happy he's back too. He said the tour was some of the best times he's had in a very long time.
Flashbacks. That's cool for us fans. You know, you got an old school member back in the band. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Here's a weird question: will we ever see DEVILDRIVER and Cold Chamber on tour together? Considering, you know, I saw what Dez is doing, the Cold Chamber shows, you know that.
Well, highly doubtful. I mean, I would never say never to anything, but doing double duty as a singer is a rough job.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Dez, you know, he really wants to give his all, every day, and I think putting us out together, it would just be a little bit too much.
Too much, huh?
Yeah, and honestly, that question, I've never had that question, nor has it ever entered my mind.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to tour with Cold Chamber.
Different genres.
Yeah, I really like Mikey Meigs and Nadia. They're great people. I don't hang out with them a whole lot, but when I always go to Cold Chamber shows when Des is on tour with them, and they come through LA. I traveled all the way to Vegas to go watch them play their show at Sick New World, and I enjoy it. It's nice to go to a show sometimes and not have to work.
Right, just kick back as a fan and just hear some live music. Yeah,
and I like to support Des and everything he does, as he likes to support me.
So what kind of music do you listen to? Is it just metal, or do you listen to, you mentioned Stevie Ray earlier from one of your teachers. Who are your influences, in other words?
Well, definitely not Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, I appreciate the hell out of him, and I like listening to him, and he's, one of the most amazing guitar players that's ever lived. But I'm not really into that style of music. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So I would say my favorite genre of music is industrial.
Okay.
And industrial and goth, but I've always liked industrial a little bit more than goth. And I do still listen to metal. I used to really focus on the Scandinavian, like, melodic death metal scene, like Opeth, In Flames, Dark Tranquility, At the Gates, and and then some black metal bands like Cradle of Filth and Dimmy Borgir and Carcass.
Nice.
Carcass's Heartwork, I think, is the best death metal record of all time.
Oh, yeah.
But my favorite record of all time is Manson's Antichrist Superstar. That album, as cheesy as it sounds, that record totally changed my life. As well as Downward Spiral and Psalm 69 by Ministry. Those were 3 albums, and one other one would be KMFDM's Nile.
Cool. Wow.
Record. Very much into that music. The unfortunate thing about industrial music, especially these days, with the exception of Three Teeth,
okay,
I don't like a lot of the bands out there. Rammstein is another favorite, but there's a fair amount of industrial bands out there. But to me, it's hard to find a really good one. And same thing with goth music. So that's my favorite area to be in, as a listener. And recently, about year and a half ago, all of a sudden, I don't remember what I was looking for to listen to, but I looked for a playlist on Spotify, and I just typed in dark bluegrass, because I think I had heard some bluegrass music I was always into a band called 16 Horsepower ever since high school, but that was the only band that's, kind of melts into the bluegrass country genre that I was really into. But I found this playlist, and I just kept on, I was listening to it, and I was like, dude, I really started liking this stuff. And then there was this one song that came on by a band called the Dead South called The Recap.
Okay.
And I was painting one of my rooms, and I just needed some music in the background while I was, I've been slowly painting all the rooms in my house black.
Wow, and very cool.
That song came on, and I just kept on hitting repeat on my phone. Like, I must have listened to that song 20 times. And then as the playlist would play on, I was like, I like this song too. And I look at my phone, it's the Dead South, and it just kept on going on. And then another song came on, I'm like, who is this? And the Dead South again. And I had started to get into outlaw country many years ago. Obviously, we did an outlaw country record, and Dez was always playing Hank 3 in the back of the bus before we'd play shows and during our power hour. And Dwight Yoakam, Merle Haggard, not so much Hank Williams Jr., but a lot of Hank 1 and Hank 3. And so it started to grow on me. Yeah. And now I am just full-blown into bluegrass to the point where I started playing banjo maybe about 2 or 3 months ago.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Obviously not very good yet, but I'm working on it. and I really enjoy playing it. And the majority of the music I've been listening to in the last year and a half has been bluegrass.
Wow, that's cool. Country, bluegrass, very cool. So you mentioned new material for Devil Driver. Would you say 2024 maybe?
Yeah, probably. I would say the release is not going to happen at the earliest until late 2024. There's a chance of it coming out in 2025. We haven't really finalized a whole lot of plans yet, but there's tentative plans about what we want to do. And I know I want to have Steve Evans produce it again. And I think a lot of the writing on this record is going to be heavily me and John Miller. This is the first time that we have a drummer that does not play guitar, but Alex Lee absolutely shreds, and I think he's going to end up doing a lot of the solos on the record as well. I haven't heard, he hasn't presented a full song to me yet, but he's such a talented guitar player. I'm sure that he's going to have some influence on the record as well. I'm very excited about the next record, mainly because Miller's back. Everyone always liked the songs that he wrote back in the day, where I would write songs, Berkland would write songs, and not everyone liked all the stuff that we cranked out, but I would say a majority of the stuff that Miller came up with, everybody liked. He just, he's a better bass player than he is a guitar player, but he has this talent for writing really catchy, simple riffs, and it's just very easy writing with him. Like, if I get stuck, he always has a way out for me.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow, that's a talent right there. Not just anybody can say that. I'm gonna write a song right now. Hey, you're stuck. Let me finish your song. Let me help you out. That's a talent right there.
Yeah, he would stay at my house back when we lived in Santa Barbara and we were working on the Fury, and sometimes I'd go to bed and he'd be sitting there on my couch downstairs, working on music, and then I'd wake up the next day and I'd find him in the exact same spot. I remember one time him looking at me like, dude, I wrote so much last night. I'm like, you've been up all night? He's like, yeah.
Wow.
And sure enough, almost everything that he cranks out, I like. And usually a lot of it ends up on the record, and if it doesn't end up the record, it's usually his choice. Me like, I can do better, just let's get rid of it, trust me. We'll come up with something cooler. He has that talent for writing. He's a very good songwriter.
Yeah, for sure. So what's next on your agenda right now, Mike? What's going on after these interviews?
We're working on another tour with CRADLE for October in this year in the States. We're going to hit up some different markets than we hit the last time around, and just getting down to writing. As soon as this is my last interview of the day, and I going to spend the rest of my day writing.
Awesome. So thank you for your time, Mike. Appreciate the stories and all that, and the updates, and we can't wait for new material, although the new album's just brand new, so us fans are enjoying that, and maybe we'll see you in Texas soon.
Hopefully we will.
Thank you, Mike. We'll keep in touch. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
So pick it up, the brand new album. If you don't want to pick it up physically, as in purchase the CD, vinyl, cassette, blah blah blah, stream it on your phone or wherever you check out music. Devil Driver. Who does not know Devil Driver? Brand new record, Dealing with Demons, Volume 2. Napalm Records presents. So big shout out to Napalm Records, everybody that works there. Big shout out, and thank you to Mike of the band, one of the guitar players for a long time now. And we appreciate your stories and your opinions and the chat, Mr. Spreitzer. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the last name, but Mike, thank you, much appreciated from your friend James and all of the metal community tuned into and listening to this podcast, That Metal Interview Podcast. Check it out on YouTube also. Subscribe, ring the bell, same thing, you know what to do. Anyways, on behalf of your friend James from Texas of the US of A, don't forget to keep it metal.
That Metal Interview.